like they say nothing good ever lasts. Well, go on now and kiss it goodbye, but hold on to your lover, 'cause your heart's bound to die. Go on now and say goodbye to our town, to our town. Can you see the sun setting down on our town, on our town? Good night.
William adopted Lawrence in 1982. It has taken a little bit longer for Lawrence to adopt William. Fortunately, his work was of a quality to survive through these 17 years, and in my opinion, we can safely expect it to survive for untold decades to come. And for that reason, Lawrence will continue to attract the attention and the presence of Burroughs interested people from around the world. I've been quoted in the newspaper saying that there are more people on the planet who are aware Lawrence, Kansas exists because of Burroughs' connection to it than there are people in Lawrence.
I think he was quite happy here. Yeah. He had a house, people taking care of him all the time. No, he was quite comfortable here. I think he lived here longer than he lived anywhere else in his life. So.
But people would come to his door and find him, and sometimes he would let them in, and sometimes he'd say, I was a surgeon operating on your mother, and some guy walked into the operating room and said, "Sir, would you quit operating on my mother so I could get you to sign this book?" Well, that's what's going on. I'm busy.
It was an amazing experience to be able to hang out with somebody like that here in Lawrence. It's almost as if, or just like, let's say that William Shakespeare decided to live his last 20 years or so in a town in Lawrence, or Pablo Picasso. It was just the same sort of thing. But at the same time, he was a person, if you got to know him well, you have a good time, pet the cats, drink a little vodka, and create together.
One person, he said that some person, a neighbor said something. He introduced himself as Burroughs, and apparently the neighbor had heard there was a writer around, and he said, "Oh, are you the one who wrote Tarzan?"
They were listening on the television set to this guy getting chased down Highway 10 toward Lawrence, and William, of course, was riveted by this, and he gave us all our own guns. In case the guy came here, he says he'll come to the first stoplight, or the second, and then he'll turn right. And then he'll try and take some captives. And, just have them there, and I was happy. I had no trouble. I laid my gun right down by the lamp shots, and I was ready, and he was doing all this proposing. Well, the guy turned a block. The first turn was Haskell and Leonard. He turned on Haskell, and he kidnapped somebody on 19th. The guy did it exactly like Roman said.
Before he died, he wanted Lawrence to have a no-kill cat haven. He wanted to set aside some land somewhere near town, build a big fence around it, and keep cats there. Spay them and put them in there, and then make sure they were fed, rather than killed. He was a big cat lover.
He felt perhaps some sort of spiritual connections to the cats.
Well, his idea about the cats some of his ideas were they could come and go, and that was fine. All cats, indoors, outdoors, in town, in the country. If there was no such thing, no need for any spaying or neutering of any cats, and especially the tomcats. He I think, personified or identified. He said, no, we can't neuter the tomcats.
the cats were, we always had the cats, and they were always, there was, a lot of feeding and cleaning up after them, fussing with them. He was kind of obsessed with that, and one or the other one was something had to be done. And
it really was wonderful for him to find this. Oh, like I said, I was always surprised how open he was with certain people and loving, and he really could pour it and open up and heal with the kiddies, and they just gave him hell. They just drove him crazy too.
No. Yeah, what is the matter with you? Because you give her some food.
Yeah, the cat's got a creep going. Food?
I think she's...
What's all that shit hanging out of the bottom of that cat?
What?
Looks like turds or something.
Oh, look.
Come on, kitty.
Yeah.
I made the acquaintance of William Burroughs in 1986, and he was just then starting to do the shotgun art, which I was aware of, and I asked him early on if he would, if I did a painting, would he shoot it for me? He said he would. So I did this painting of him, it's him standing on the front porch. I mounted it to a board so I could take a shotgun blast, and I took it over, showed it to him. And he took a look at it. He was pretty amused by it. He liked the skinny legs and all. He thought that was funny. But once I showed it to him, I said, well, this is the one I want you to shoot for me. He says, I don't want to shoot that. That's a nice painting. A few weeks later, he calls me up, says that he changed his mind. He'd done some experiments, shooting through photographs mounted to boards. So we got things together. We went out to the outhouse, a venue outside of Lawrence, stacked up some hay bales behind it. He blew a hole in it. Once he shot it, he kind of looked up. Here's the hole here. It's paint splatter. We attached a baggie of yellow paint. It's paint splatter. Once he shot it, he kind of walked up to it. We removed the baggie. He looks at it and says, looks like an owl. So that painting, that paint splatter there kind of looked like an owl to him.
There was always at least one guest there besides me and Wayne. It might be, who knows, Timothy Leary, Patti Smith, and various people would show up, Allen Ginsberg from time to time. So there's almost always somebody there to entertain him while I was cooking. And Wayne had a video camera set up all the time, trained on either the living room or in the bedroom where William would hang out before dinner.
You know, when James Garholtz organized this River City reunion to help, rebuild Bill, as a figure, then, he was going to stage the event. So then we, I got on the horse and at least put the production together all. I never did anything with it since, but it's only been 26 or 27 years, so I've still got some time to work with.
He took footage and so on, and he's, I guess, off and on worked on it for however long it's been. And I'm sure other people took, images of it, but I think Kaplan took the most, and he hasn't organized it yet.
Urine tests. Our pioneer ancestors would piss in their graves at the thought of urine tests to decide whether decide whether a man is competent to do his job. The measure of competence is performance. When told that General Grant had a drinking problem, Lincoln said, find out what brand of whiskey he drinks and distribute it to the other generals.
We set up a party to capture footage of everybody at a motel north of town. The best material of the piece would have definitely come from two crews going through that party for 2.5 or 3 hours and just whatever you would have gotten verite.
Burroughs came to Harvard and looked at us, and we felt we were like hopeless. He said, if I hear one more story of someone taking a drug and discovering God, man, woman, law, the meaning of life, I'm going to vomit on my shoes.
This is one of the great dangers of overpopulation. You just produce this absolute proliferation of morons.
Lay down your mountain. Lay down, God. Lay down your music. Love, lay down.
For a week at least, Lawrence was sort of the beatnik mecca of the nation.
I never gave to the rich. I never stole from the poor. I'm just a curious child. Give me more, 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 more.
I think during the time of the reunion, Burroughs gave a reading at a bookstore downtown.
Can you give us immortality? I can get you extension, maybe take you as far as the first checkpoint. You'll have to make it from there on your own. Most of them don't. Figure about 1 in a million. And biologically speaking, that's very good odds.
I think he probably knows that he's not like the others and has known he's not like the others his entire life. And he's not like any of the others. He's a 17-year-old boy preserved in the body of an 82-year-old, very lyrical old man. That's what he is.
I also love him because he flies in the face of accepted social wisdom. You know, anyone who has lived a life full of drugs and violence and totally decadent living is supposed to die with a bullet in the head at 32 or something like that, or die of, you know, in DTs or something by 45 or something like that. You know, you're supposed to collapse and be dead before you're half a century old for sure. This guy has drunk more liquor than any other 10 people I know, and he's done a few other substances here and there for just a fair number of years, and he's owned guns all his life, and you talk about danger, he's done it all. Man, he's 81 fucking years old, and he's healthier than I am.
Well, I was just asked by Ed Small, whom you interviewed a moment ago, whether this would be William's last public reading.
People literally, if they are prevented from dreaming, they awakened every time they start to dream, they soon show all of the symptoms of sleeplessness. And eventually they die.
And I had to answer, it is as Allah wills it.
A few years after he moved here, he decided he wanted to drive a car. But he hadn't driven a car since 1946. So James, in his ingenuity, found him a 1946 Buick or something, parked it in the alley, and he was too intimidated by it. He never did get it out of the alley, so it stayed around for a while. And then they got him a little Datsun.
And he got this old orange Datsun that just ran forever. And then he took driver's lessons.
And he even got a driver's license, which is a miracle to me. But he puttered around town in that thing for, I don't know how long, but not too long. He was not a very good driver. I saw him, I got behind him one time, and it was just weird, his little head in there, weaving around a little bit. So he didn't drive for very long. So,
you know, his daily routine was, you know, he got up, he drank his methadone and went back to bed. You know, the methadone thing was as much a habit of a habit, you know. And he certainly liked going to the clinic just to check in what was going on in Kansas City with the other people that were coming to the clinic, you know, just curiosity and all that.
And in his case, being an old guy and fairly reliable, he could get a six-pack. Most of the time you go in there and drink it while they watch you and you leave. In his case, he could take it home, 6 of them.
He was always in a good mood when he got his methadone. So we would be driving back and there'd be clouds in the sky and we'd be finding things in the clouds, and then the story would start where he would make the story up out of this thing in the cloud and incorporate it into the cloud, and it was very imaginative, very free-flowing, very fun, and every once in a while he'd sing, which I always loved.
Then in 1988, I decided I'd like to make a music video, so I made produced a music video tribute to William. It aired on USA Network's Night Flight in 1988, 1 week right before the election of George Bush.
Last words of Uncle Saba, the old man of the mountain. Listen to my last words anywhere. Listen, all you boards, governments, syndicates, nations of the world, and you powers behind what filth deals consummated in what lavatory, to take what is not yours, to sell out your sons forever, to sell the ground from unborn feet forever, from unborn feet forever, for ye are. That out. Disaster, unimaginable disaster. Disaster, unimaginable disaster. Disaster, unimaginable disaster. Rat men. Don't let them see us. Don't tell them what we are doing. Are these the words of the all-powerful boards and syndicates of the earth? Don't let them see us. Don't tell them what we are doing. I read out the word forever. I read out all the words and reports of the board forever. I read out your thing police forever for Eva. I read out the words of Marx, Lenin, Einstein, Freud, Braun forever. I read out the formulas of Einstein, Oppenheimer forever. All into space. Forever. All into space. All into space. Forever. You cannot take words into space. You cannot take words into space. That is all Hassan Saba.
Somebody mentioned John Cage, and he came to dinner one evening, and all was well. They got time to leave, and of course, Bill is a St. Louis gentleman, and he's on the way to the door to see off his guest, but he's a little slow. So Cage and I are out on the front porch, and John says, "Well, I suppose this could be the last time I'll be seeing William. You know." A moment later, Bill comes out. "Oh, it's so nice to see you, blah, blah, blah," and off he goes. 2 weeks later, Cage drops dead. So, in my Igor role, I didn't say anything on that evening, but I quickly reported to him, "Did you know?" Etc., etc. Oh, he was just not delighted that Cage was dead. You know, that is kind of funny. And that began, I'm sure the scrapbook still exists, I believe that Cage was the first entry into the scrapbook, because over how long it was, James probably knows, but at least a couple of years, one by one, notable people, one sort or another, would come, and none of them actually said it. You know, I'm here for the last time. But in a few cases, they were there for the last time, and they got in the scrapbook. Dead visitors.
The trail, named the trail after him, that's cool. I don't think those named the school after him.
The consensus couldn't be reached to actually change the name from Douglas County Tributary XX blah 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 to Burroughs Creek, even though that's more and more what everyone knew it as. But finally, you know, they built this sweet walking trail and biking, you know, just the Burroughs Creek Trail and Park, which is a wonderful addition to the town. And so as soon as those signs went up, it was, yeah, really official. He certainly made a good impression on a lot of people here, and he was a valued member of the community, and now he's a valued part of the Lawrence's legacy.
When I first met William, he would paint on anything he could get his hands on. You know, paper, wood, shingle. Like there in the collection, if you look in the archives, there are house shingles that he painted.
You know, his painting style was that he would, after he painted something, he would study the painting, examine it in any way, turn it upside down, and look for images that would emerge from the painting. And some of them were quite synchronistic. They would be, some of the things that he would find in the paintings would be almost photographic in quality, almost a psychic type of imprint on his paintings.
He was the grand experimenter. That's what I think he was always with his writing. See what he could write into or write through. With the drugs, certainly with the paintings, he always said he wanted to paint to find out what showed up, you know.
So I bring William and we start going through the building materials, and he's going through the doors, just minutely, just looking at every grain, every edge. And then he picks out a cherry door, and Orville says, "Your friend picked out a door with a bad warped bottom." I said, "I know that." He says, "Tell him you can cut that off." I said, "He won't want you to. He's an artist from Lawrence." He says, "Yeah, Lawrence." And later I saw the door at the art center in Lawrence called the Red Door, all done up, and $7,000 or $10,000. He got it for $5,000.
About a mile from his studio is where the big show took place at the Lawrence Art Center. So it was really opened up a lot of new possibilities, and we really could show the world some stuff that they hadn't seen before.
The feedback has been really good, and so the opportunity to educate people on him and his process, I think we hit that mark. We in our planning talked about, you know, making sure that the people who were really invested in William Burroughs really felt good about it. People who thought they knew something about William Burroughs were really educated, and those who knew nothing still were able to get something out of it. And I think the catalog complements all of that. You know, the 3 different rooms that we have here, there were 3 strategies with those. The one that we're in now is, you know, focused on just his work, just his hands. The middle space is collaborations. That's one unique thing about him, was his willingness to collaborate. And then the front room, you know, with the projection of him doing the reading, what we call the faux Burroughs, the mannequin wearing his clothes, and all the book covers, the hundreds of covers. That was really to drive home the massive shadow the imprint this guy has left in the world.
It was a surprise. I did not discern anything which indicated that this would be the end. Naturally, at age 83, it exhibits some traits of decline, but no, it was kind of unexpected for me. But looking back and reading a bit, perhaps he knew that it was coming.
There was a memorial service here at Free State. Not the brewery, but the old opera house, the Liberty Hall.
Yeah.
They laid him out on the stage. I was one of his pallbearers, actually. Then there was a parade of cars going to St. Louis, and we all went there, and they buried him there. Patti Smith was there. Various celebrities showed up. Patti Smith was a real fan of Burroughs, and she really loved him.
Once he asked me to, he said, Patty, why don't you sing a little song for me? And I said, well, what do you want to hear, William? He said, oh, that one with Johnny. And I thought I was trying to bum, he goes to the fair. And so I'll sing it to him now. If you don't mind. Oh, dear, what can the matter be? Dear, dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be? Johnny's so long at the fair. He promised to buy me a bunch of blue ribbons. He promised to buy me a bunch of blue ribbons. He promised to buy me a bunch of blue ribbons, but he's not home from the fair. Oh dear, what can the matter be? And he was singing along with me at this point. Dear, dear, what can the matter be? Oh dear, what can the matter be?
Beatrice was a drunk. She denied it. She was always falling off, falling down stages, old stages. And then she'd say that somebody tricked her. He tricked me. It's horrible.